Alright, so I figured I'd talk a little bit about this. It's nothing big, in my opinion, and it's not really a big... Well, some people are going to consider it a big deal, but I'm actually pretty okay with this. So today it was announced that the actor John Cho has announced that his character, Hikaru Sulu, is going to be a same-sex character. And of course, in typical internet fashion, everyone collectively flipped out. Now, me personally, I'm okay with this. I really am, because, yeah, first off, they're doing something that I really like, and even the actor said in the interviews that it's just part of his character. We're not going to make a big deal of it. That's not going to be his defining trait. And I'm like, thank you. This is what I want from same-sex characters. I'm all for same-sex characters being in shows. Just don't make them loving the same gender a big deal. Like, this is what I brought up in my MLP. Stuff when they talk, when everyone's been talking about having a same-sex relationship in MLP, and in there I said, if you do it. Just don't make it, the big defining character arc for that character. Don't make it the big defining thing, and make that character shallow. If you're gonna make Lyra and Bonbon, a couple, finally, do it. Just don't make it the big, the big deal. The big thing about them. Don't make that the only thing. So far, the only, in recent years, and this is just me, I don't watch every single TV show, honestly. I don't watch every single TV show, so if I'm missing any, I do apologize. But the only time I've seen it done in TV, and it wasn't a big deal, the only time I haven't seen it done, the only few places, and again, I don't watch a lot of, I don't watch every single TV show, so if I'm missing something, feel free to tell me if there's anything I've missed. But yeah, for me, the only two times I've seen it done in TV where it wasn't done as a big deal was Garnet and Ruby, and when Ruby and Sapphire and Garnet, it's never made the defining character of them. It's just they're part of a relationship. That Garnet is the relationship, as Steven said. So it's not really, that's not really her defining trait. She's the leader of the Crystal Gems. She's like the Zordon of the group. She's, she was technically, for the biggest part, probably the one who raised Steven the most, aside from Pearl. She was probably the one, outside of Pearl, who did most of the mothering. So, for Steven. Anyway. So yeah, and the other one is I forget the character's name, but the police captain in The Flash. They don't make it part of his thing. In fact, when we found out that he was, that character was gay, was in a passing conversation, and everyone's like there it was, it's one of those blink and you miss it moments, and it's brought up a little more in season 2, I understand, or is it later in the season? I think it's later in the season. It's brought up again, but it's not really part of the big deal. No one cares. And it's brought up in passing at best. I love how it's even brought up. He's just eating a burger, and he's just like, my boyfriend's got me on this diet, so, and this is the only safe place I could eat without him jumping down my throat, or something like that. It's one of those blink and you miss it type things. Anyway. And again, like I said, they're not making Sulu, making him gay the big thing. The story is the bigger story of, the Enterprise getting blown the fuck up again, and this new enemy played by Idris Elba. That's the big story. If anything, it's just going to be like, oh, I got a boyfriend now. That's probably the extent of what they're going to do with this character. Now, you're probably wondering, but Zilla, what about your anger towards Alan Scott being made gay? Well, here's the thing. The reason why I didn't appreciate Alan Scott being made gay was because he had a family. He already was pre-established as a... he was already pre-established with a family, and ironically enough, his son was gay. He had 2 characters already. He had an ex-wife, and I think he had a fiance, if I'm not mistaken, in JSA. And it just felt like it just felt like they were just doing it for the sake of doing it. And that was my big thing. With Sulu, there's a little more writing room. Yes, it is established that he has a daughter in the TOS series, but it is never brought up that Sulu, of who the other parent is. He could have adopted it, or why'd I say it? I mean her. He could have adopted the girl. It's up to possibility that he could have easily just had been gay the whole time, and it's never been part of his character. The defining thing about Sulu is that he's a badass with a sword, and he's the ship's helmsman. That's what makes Sulu so great, is that, you know, he's an underrated badass, and, you know, the question of his, you know, his gender affiliation has never been a big problem. You know, no one's going to question the guy who knows how to fly a ship. And, yeah, again, and John Cho even said, yeah, he's going to be gay, but we're not going to, you know, it's not going to be a major plot point in the story. It's just going to be a tiny thing with his character, and that's it. Plus, it's the actor himself, you know, the original actor George Takei is gay, and we all refer to him as the Emperor of the Internet. No, let's face it, he is the undisputed Emperor of the George Takei is the Emperor of the Internet. That's his title. Anyway, yeah. So, if anything, I'm cool with this. It doesn't change anything about Hikaru Sulu. It doesn't change anything about the story. I would have made, it would have been a bigger problem if they made it like, if they bashed you over the head with, look at it, look how progressive we are, aren't we progressive? Come on, like us. But no, it's just going to be like, oh, character's gay. All right, moving on. And that's more than likely the the extent of it. I'm pretty okay with it. I'm okay. I'm really, I mean, I should have brought my dad in here, because my dad is the giant Star Trek fan, and I'm curious to know what his thoughts are on this whole matter. But yeah. So anyway, guys, you guys tell me, what do you all think of Hikaru Sulu being announced as a gay character in the Abrams universe? Just comment below, let me know, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.